Built to Sell, Creating a Business That Can Thrive Without You by John Warrillow. That's a tough name to say, Warrillow. This book, I think, changed my life. I hate to say it.
Yeah.
Because people aren't going to believe me, but...
Didn't someone tell you that it was going to change your life and then it did?
Well, I wasn't going to... This wasn't even on the docket, so I subscribed to a service, and I was learning some amazing things, and the guy that owns the business sent me... He asked me for my address, so I knew he was going to send me something. I didn't realize what he was going to send me. About a week later, this came in the mail, Built to Sell, and it said... Hey, this book changed my life. Aloha. Rob.
And who was he?
Rob Bailey.
Oh, okay. How do you know him?
Marketing guy. Just a great marketing mind and just someone who's amazing. But he goes, I love how he said the end. He goes, Aloha. Yeah. So what this was an eye-opener for me. And I know you read it because it applies, I think, to your life too.
It already changed a lot of what I do. So you get into it. Tell them like the big idea, the main thing.
Well, the big idea is it's a story about a guy that runs an advertising marketing business. And he does what I did. He just kind of wanders around the market and solves people's problems that they happen to have. And he builds a business around it. He builds a 7-figure business around it. He has one primary client that has him by the nuts, big bank, and they have him doing all kinds of stuff he's good at and some shit he's not good at.
Right.
And then there's the team is always doing something different. So he has a very small team, but they're always doing either things they're not trained to do, things they don't love to do, or things that are just like crisis management stuff to be at the beck and call of this big client. So he ends up having a business that's doing well, but is not worth a penny.
Yeah.
Because every single part of the business involves his involvement.
Right.
It doesn't run without him. And so the story goes that he wants to sell his business. He's miserable. He's gotten cash flow issues. On top of doing everything a la carte, he bills at the end of the cycle. So he's put himself in what's called a negative cash flow loop.
Right.
Anyway, he says, this business sucks. I want to sell it. And then his mentor says, that's great. Your business isn't worth shit. It's completely worthless.
Yeah, it made me rethink a lot of what I do because when it comes to dunk training, a lot of that's my main business I'm working on is like I work with people very individual basis. So instead of trying to coach everybody differently, I got to come up with a system that's just 4 to 6 weeks or even 8 weeks. That's a system everybody goes through. It's tough with training though because you want them to work, but at the same time I could still make some kind of product that will be more universal. But I like the thing you drew out one time when you were telling me about this book when we were both reading it was there's the whole market. And then you kind of see what everybody wants. Say there's like 10 different people. Right. And then you start trying to do, because you could do all those things. That's the thing is you had the skills in helping them with market or helping them with recruiting, whatever it was. And then now you're spread thin with all these different things you do. And some people you said even came on just because of you. Like they just liked your energy.
I know. Then you had to give them time. The challenge with your business, like if you're exceptional athlete and you're highly skilled and you're also well informed beyond the athletic side, so you have a lot to offer someone. Like you literally have some clients that hire you for coaching,
right, for
lifestyle coaching, and then you have life coaching, and then you can teach on nutrition, you can teach on working out and diet and exercise. The challenge is you'll go crazy and you'll have nothing to sell people when you're being you, when you're living your life. And you want to productize your market. Now, step number one in Built to Sell, the guy goes through the epiphany. Is like, oh, my business isn't worth shit. And now I have to figure out how to make it valuable. And to make it valuable, he had to step away from a lot of things that they currently did. He had to say no to a lot of business. He had to fire pretty much all his clients except a couple. And then he had to pick what he calls a standard service offering, like your number one thing.
Right.
So instead of teaching people, individually a la carte how to dunk, you come up with a 5-step process. To do it.
What I loved about what you said is that, and the book that was huge, is that they had to say no to clients. Because at first, especially when you're building a business, you want to say yes to everybody. It's like, yes, I can take your money and do the service you're asking. But the more you say no, the more they respect it actually. And that was a big eye opener from the book as well.
Yeah, it also allows you to specialize.
Yes.
Specialization and that I built a company because I built the company by myself my company was me for a long time, not that long, maybe a couple of years. I'd knocked on doors, I made sales, I learned how to sell, and then I learned how to do some marketing. Then I learned how to stuff envelopes, then I learned how to use a mail machine, then I had leads, and then all of a sudden I had flow. I had enough leads and I started hiring people. So I actually became a CEO because I could generate leads. And the company was doing well just with that. And then we started expanding. And as we expanded, we had new things we could offer. And I learned them all.
Yeah.
And then at the end, when I got really sick, one thing I attributed it to is I was trying to be unique to everybody. I had over 140 people. I think I had 140 business partners. Damn. Because I treated each one differently. They all had a relationship with me, and I didn't have a system.
And then you brought up that caused the toxicity.
Totally, yeah. I mean, the inability to productize what we did. So instead of us helping any financial advisor do better. So some people wanted to learn how to sell a certain product. Some people wanted to learn a marketing technique. One guy wanted to start a radio show. Yeah. Another guy was pissed off at his other buddy, and I was nice to him. Like, he joined me because of that, and all of a sudden I had a new best friend I had to talk to every night. So it wasn't sustainable.
Right.
And my business, which was doing over 10 million in gross sales, was worthless. It wasn't worth much without me. I wish I read this book 10 years ago. I might not have gotten sick, but
it's tough because that balance of you want to try to get your business off the ground, but then saying no and trying to specialize. It's hard to find what your specialty is. What was yours? Did you have a moment when you realized this is my specialty?
Well, my specialty is my new business. I was very good at getting appointments. I was very good at getting people to say yes and to agree to meet.
Yeah.
That was my skill set my whole life. So I built a whole business around that, around the appointment. That's basically what we do. It's the Anywhere Advisor system is what I've built, and that's about how to get an appointment with anybody from anywhere on earth so you can live a good life. And once you isolate it down to what people want and need and will buy again, because in your standard offering system, you got to pick something that you're going to be great at, like almost to the hedgehog principle and good to great. Like, what could you be the best in the world at? What drives your economic engine, and what do you like to do? And he talks about three things. It needs to be teachable, it needs to be valuable, and it needs to be repeatable. So if you look at your whole inventory of business offerings that you do, if you're in a business and you do a lot of different things, let's say your lawn service, for instance, and then you're starting to clean gutters and power wash houses, and pretty soon the tail's wagging the dog and you're not very good at anything. Everything suffers instead of saying, no, we just do immaculate lawn care.
Yeah.
And we have a 5-step process to do that. So that's the whole system, is selecting the product. And his example he gave was, he says, think razor blades, not razors.
I don't remember that.
Well, yeah, it was in the implementation part where he says, once you pick a product that's repeatable. So you don't want something that they'll do just once, right? The disposable razor you buy, the razor process, like you buy razor blades, it's a repeatable process. It's not easy to duplicate. So think razor blades instead of saying like, I help people, something they might.
Are you saying like the full
build
razor?
Websites, like people, what's that?
Are you saying like the full razor, and then he said, no, go down just to the razor blade part of the razor?
Well, the Gillette built the razor that you had to make an investment into the razor to get started, and then you had to buy more things over time to stay with them.
Yeah.
And a business that does that is a really good business.
Oh, I think I remember that. He kind of bought into that thing, and he won't go back just because he's got the piece now.
Yeah, the sunken cost. Yeah. You can pick it, but just pick something that drives your economic engine, that you can commit to a process that is executable without your involvement. So you start to productize what you do, and then you segment the steps, and then you forensically train on each step so that you can teach that.
Yeah, even if it's a service. That's what was interesting, because it resonated with me, because when I dunk train or jump train, it feels like a service. You're teaching them how to do something.
Right.
But if you think of it as a product, it makes it way easier to market, because it's like an A to B or A to Z instead of this is what we're going to do indefinitely. But if you want this system, you can repeat it because it's a product. Like, you use it once and then you have to repeat it because you have to get better at it.
Right. I mean, an example would be like we were exploring, helping people build social media accounts, and that's like we do it, we figured it out, and we're doing pretty good at it, but that's not what we're known for. We're just good enough at it that ours are okay. And then you want to teach people how to build funnels, and you want to teach people how to do SEO, then you want to teach people how to do logos and videos, and pretty soon you're not good at anything.
That's been the hardest thing for me, is figuring out what my strength is and not trying to think of what the most profitable business, because dunking might not be the most profitable business. Maybe like content might be, like teaching somebody how to do content, how to create podcasts. But is that what I'm naturally good at? Is that the one thing I want to do? That's been the hardest type of road to find.
Keep in mind, you don't have to do it yourself. When you're starting a business, the purpose of business is to make a profit. I mean, if you don't like it, don't do it. I mean, do something that people want, that is valuable to them, that you can teach repeatedly without you being there.
Yeah.
That's the magic. And when you do, let's pretend it's podcasting. Like, you know a lot about podcasting. A to Z podcasting, right? From nothing to something. Some people want to learn that. And if you had a 6-step process called, the ultimate podcast system in 60 days, it's 5 steps over 60 days, and it's $1,000.
Right.
And you were good enough at designing that program and then teaching someone to teach each step. Clearly, early on, before you have employees, you do it yourself. But after a while, you'd want to step away. And then, the next step is branding it.
Right.
Instead of just saying, "Oh, I help people do podcasts."
Right. I like the shortness, like 60 days. It's like a set thing. I feel like that helps so much in the marketing.
Yeah. Yeah. You call it the 60-day, the 60-day instant podcast program.
Oh, remember in the book when he said to write the letter to himself 5 years from now or a year from now, how much he'd want to sell his business for?
Yeah.
Talk about that. That was a really good part.
Yeah.
It was like, he wrote down a number about how much he wanted to sell the business for. And then a year later, he got valuations.
Well, his business wasn't worth anything. So he started the journey, and, to start any journey, you want to know where you want to end up. So working backwards from that great number is what I think the exercise was. So his mentor said, go away, stay at my house, write in an envelope what you'd accept for the business. And I think at the time he'd be thrilled to get $1 million, but it was to live a perfect life.
Right.
So then he came up with the number 5 million. So after that point, he showed him the number once, he put it back in the envelope. All the new business plan was geared towards getting that business worth 5 million using accounting principles, like real accounting principles, so you can actually figure out what that needs to be, because if something's earning enough money, you can work backwards to what it has to do for the drivers to be worth 5 million. But the reason you put it in an envelope is when you go to sell the business, and someone offers you 6 million. Yeah. And then there's a due diligence period, and then after due diligence, it comes down to 5. You don't get pissed off. You take the 5.
Right. That's what really
happened.
Like. Yeah. He was like, they offered him 6 million, and then after this period of time, that was their first initial offer. So when they came back for the final offer, it was less, and he was pissed. Like you said, he wanted the 6 million, but then his 5 million was his number. He remembered that. He's like, and it connected him to what his life will be.
Yeah. I mean, this whole book comes down to figuring out and saying no to everything else, doing one thing really well, being the best in the world at it, and then making it a branded product, and then branding each step of the way, naming each step. Because in this story, he ended, instead of doing everything, he just did logos. He had a 5-step logo process that was branded and named, and he went out and sold it in the marketplace. And that's all he did. He became known for that because it was teachable, learnable, valuable, and repeatable.
Yeah.
But the second change that he made, which I think was important for cash flow, is he went from a negative cash flow cycle, meaning he'd bill at the end, to he billed all of it up front.
Yeah.
Because he made it such that they want it, and it's $10,000, up front. And then, so his cash flow ended up being better.
Yeah, and then all those little intricacies about the business deals going down, people buying his business, were so fascinating. I don't know any of that really, but I loved when he went to sell it. He had like that bad interview or bad consultation. I forget what it was. Somebody went to buy his business, and he basically said, "I'm looking to go leave," and it made it seem like his business is not valuable. It's like, why would you leave this business valuable? You have to tell him like it's going to keep growing.
Right. Yeah. Well, the problem when your business. The big issue here, if you make a business that you want to sell and your name's attached to the business, or people are doing business because you're there, you're going to get some kind of like what they call an earnout. Like they're going to give you your number, but they're going to base it on the sales staying after you disengage. The likelihood of that happening is low. Number one. Number two, the triggers and the pulleys in the deal are usually on the purse strings of the buyer. So a lot of times there's many stories where people that got bought out in an earnout are almost always disappointed. So you don't want to have an earnout because when you sell, you want to leave and you want that price to be fixed. So having a known product that's teachable, learnable, repeatable, transferable with standard operating procedures, positive cash flow cycle, and then the last element of it is that you have a sales team, that you have a sales, client acquisition strategy, and ultimately, if you get big enough, a management team to manage that process.
Right.
All of that bundled together in this book is the first half of the book.
Right.
The second half is selling it. So if you want to sell the business, which we won't go into today, you got to hire a broker. So there's technology in hiring the broker. You got to involve your team. There's some stuff on compensation, and the offer and the acceptance. But I think the big idea in this book is productize your business such that it doesn't need you in it to thrive. That's the big idea, and I did it. Like I literally changed the way I do business because of that. And I'm saying no to people now that want me to build things I'm fully capable of building that I don't want to build anymore.
Yeah, I like this part as well. I'm reading a summary quote right here. It says, think big, write a 3-year business plan that paints a picture of what is possible for your business. The company that acquires you will have more resources to accelerate your growth. Because when you're trying to sell it, you have to remember that they're going to have all these resources. And so you have to think about that. Imagine if you had these unlimited resources, how could you scale it? You could, remember you saying satellite companies in all these different cities. Thought that was a really cool way to think.
Yeah, if you build a business, you might want to consider the fact that business can work anywhere on earth.
Yeah.
And then you should know that business better than anyone on earth and have an idea of what it would look like with more resources to grow. You may not want to grow, but by being able to show them a tool or a plan or a model that is something they could grow, makes your business more valuable.
Yeah. Super interesting. I never thought of it coming from that angle of saying no to things and also thinking that you're going to not be a part of it. You always think of like, this is my baby. This is like what I'm building. But it's the title of the book, Built to Sell. Very interesting.
Yeah. I mean, when you create a positive cash flow cycle, I'll end on this note. If you have a positive cash flow cycle, meaning you get paid before the work is done, you'll have cash on hand for when you sell, versus if you have a negative cash flow cycle, the company will have to come in and put operating dollars in there. So you actually get a bigger number. It's a really interesting small point, but a big thing. There's nothing worse than doing work and either not getting paid because the company goes out of business or just waiting and relying on that. It hurts your cash flow. I love it. Good book.
Great book. Great recommendation.
Yeah. It's a quick read.
Aloha, baby.
Aloha, man. Read this book. You will not be disappointed.